It looks impossible, doesn't it? Let's talk about this with Gareth Parry, who's here in the studio with me, who's done several free climbs. And also let's find out what it's actually like to climb this particular mountain. El Capitan Leo Houlding has climbed it many times. As a friend also of the two climbers involved, he joins us from the Lake District. Thanks to both of you for joining us here on Global. Gareth, to you first of all. I mean, when you look at those pictures, you almost have to do a double take. It looks totally madcap and impossible.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome actually what the guys have been doing. I think when somebody like myself or Leo looks at something like that, we just wish we were there. We just wish we were sort of
You're jealous?
Of that adventure, yeah, for sure.
Leo, you've climbed this mountain, I think it is 15 times conventionally. Give me an idea of what it is actually like.
Yosemite is a national park in Northern California, and in my opinion, it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. It really is spectacular. You know, 900 meters, that's 3 times the height of the Shard, the tallest building in the UK. It's truly epic.
We're showing pictures of you doing your climbs. Can you ever imagine doing this as a free climb?
I'd like to think so, but the reality is Kevin and Tommy are two of the very best climbers in the world, you know, real gold medalists of an Olympic standard, and I might try one day, but I don't fancy my chances.
Gareth, you've done so many of these free climbs. I mean, explain just briefly for us. I mean, we saw some ropes used. I mean, there are rules about it. Just take me briefly through what is allowed, what is not allowed.
Well, the beauty of climbing is there isn't really any rules. The ropes are there purely for safety. So the guys are trying to climb the wall under their own steam. So they're trying to use their hands and the feet to actually get themselves up there, and if they fall, the rope's there to catch them.
This is you. I mean, look at that, how precarious it is. The little crevices, the holes that you're actually getting a purchase on, how big are those?
It can vary depending on, you know, the style of the rock. This is limestone. It's very different from what the guys are climbing in California at the minute. They're on the granite, and the granite can be really, really tiny holes, things that are almost the size of your nail.
Your size of your nail, and you're hanging on by your fingertips. I mean, even physically, how is that possible? What is the strain like?
Well, these guys have been climbing for years, so, you know, you do get used to it. You do get used to dealing with what we call the pump. But the strain's immense, and just the whole sort of mental strain of the whole adventure is a big challenge for these guys.
I mean, look at that picture there. I mean, you do this, but your whole body weight is just there, being held by your toes and your fingers. I mean, how is it even possible?
A lot of practice. These guys have put a lot of time into this climb. You know, they've been working on it for six years and more to be able to get to this stage where they're actually going to get to the top.
And what does it do to your fingers? I mean, how much care do you have to...
Well, I wasn't born with hands like this. They've changed quite a lot over the years. One of the big challenges for them is for the skin to stay in good condition, because that's the contact with the rock is the skin. And obviously the granite's really sharp, so it's causing a lot of damage and a lot of problems for them.
And we saw the tents there. I mean, how long can you go before you actually have to physically rest? And I mean, how do you even go about resting on a sheer surface like that?
Well, you do get quite used to resting in those sorts of tents, but it's not like coming down to the ground and going home and going and lying down in your own bed. It's very different. It's a moving sort of ground. It's never that stable completely, so you can never really 100% relax.
Leo, we're showing pictures of the tents where they get some sort of rest. Just in terms of trying to scale this mountain, I mean, it takes months of planning, I was reading, as climbers like yourself, and I read it described this way as working out the weaknesses of the mountain itself and how to actually go about it.
Exactly, as Gareth was describing, free climbing, you have to use your hands and your feet, no artificial aids or ropes to drag your way up. So it's a little bit like a jigsaw puzzle. Tommy and Kevin have spent a long time trying to find the pieces and connect them together. This style of climbing that they're doing now, it's very much, it's a little bit like a choreographed gymnastics routine or ballet, where everything has to be done absolutely perfectly. Every move, every hold has to be grasped in just the right way to keep enough energy for the next section. You know, it really is, I think it's probably the hardest route in the world.
And Kevin, for a long while, was trapped at, I think it's called pitch 15. Is that a particularly difficult part of the mountain to get past? I mean, it certainly has caused him problems, because you've had problems on that mountain, haven't you, in storms at different stages?
Well, yeah, there's lots of hazards. You know, what held Kevin up is a cliff of that scale, you break it down into sections that we call pitches. That route is about 30 pitches, and the middle section is by far the hardest. And Kevin repeatedly fell. You know, the ropes catch him, but for it to class as a free ascent, you have to go back to the start of that section and do it without falling off. And he spent nearly a week stuck on one section, but you know, fair play to him, he managed to do it a few days ago. They're probably going to top out.
Now he's got
tonight.
past it. Gareth, can I ask you, a lot of the climbing is done at night. Just describe and tell me why, because that doesn't automatically, you wouldn't automatically assume that would be the case.
Well, the connection with the rock is through our fingers, and it all comes down to friction with a lot of the holds, the relationship between the skin and the rock. And the colder the temperatures, the better the friction is. So you're able to pull on smaller and smaller holds, the cooler it is. So climbing at night, the temperatures drop, and it becomes optimum conditions.
We've only got about a minute left, so really quickly, both of you, Gareth first, if they do this in the next couple of days, how much of an achievement?
The biggest thing ever, probably, in climbing.
Leo, final word to you.
Good luck, guys. You're nearly there. Push on.
And would you ever try it yourself, do you think?
I'll go and have a look. I think one day. It's you know, it's such a magnificent part of the world.
That is a very cautious response, but looking at the pictures, I don't actually blame you. Leo, thank you so much for joining us, and Gareth too, thanks very much. Well, my favourite story of the day. Get in touch with us here, the whole team on Twitter. I'm at